Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Afnan. I hope you are all well. Today we will be discussing about IELTS Writing Task 1. So as you already know that we have two different sort of tasks, Task 1 and Task 2. Task 1 is of 20 minutes and you need to write 150 words, whereas Task 2 is of 40 minutes and you need to write 250 words. My suggestion is always go for task 2 first because it carries more weightage, whereas for task 1 it only carries 33% of your total writing task. So task 2 is always important. Try to solve that timely and then come back to task 1 and solve this too, because without task 1 you won't be able to achieve your desired band. You will be graded upon four factors. Number 1, task achievement. Number 2, coherence and cohesion. Number 3, grammar. And number 4, vocabulary. Each one of these carries 25% of marks. So now let's just see what you need to do to score a band 8 grade in task 1. Number 1, present a clear overview without any opinion. Number 2, key features of the task 1 should be clearly analyzed and presented and defined clearly. All the requirements of task 1 should be covered. Avoid any of the further details and paraphrase where necessary. Also, provide accurate information in your body paragraphs with correct data, percentages and numbers. Now moving on to the first part of task 1, that's introduction. Introduction should always be crisp, limited and should be of 2 to 3 lines along with paraphrasing where necessary. For instance, you can see a question here. It says the chart below shows the number of men and women in further education in Britain in 3 different periods and whether they were studying full-time or part-time. How would you paraphrase this? You will say, the presented graph illustrates the amount of males and females in third level education in the UK, Wales and Scotland in the 3 periods and if they studied part-time or full-time. So in the question, you will paraphrase those highlighted with yellow, like chart shows number, men, women, further education, Britain, 3, whether full-time or part-time. So it's not always necessary to paraphrase each and every word. You should paraphrase where you feel it's necessary and don't exaggerate, otherwise you will commit errors and that will lead to negative marking. So we can see a few examples of the introduction. I have added few more questions just for the understanding. You can see a question saying the chart below shows the percentage of households in owned and rented accommodations in England and Wales between 1918 and 2011. The answer is the presented diagram illustrates or depicts the percentage of owned and rented households in England or UK and Wales accommodations from 1918 to 2011. Another question is, the chart below shows the main reasons why agricultural land becomes less productive. The table shows how these causes affected 3 regions of world during the 1990s. Its answer will be, the presented pie graph illustrates the primary reasons as to why farmland/farming land produces less over the time. The table displays or depicts how these causes impacted 3 parts of the planet in the 90s. Now moving on to the next part after the introduction, that's the overview. Overview is about your 25% of the task achievement of how you have written the overview, and if you have already written an overview, you don't need to write conclusion. If you mention conclusion in task 1, that will carry negative mark. I cannot emphasize enough to tell you not to write conclusion in task 1. As for overview, overview can be written right after the introduction or at the end of the paragraph 2. It's always better to write overview right after the introduction so that it gives the examiner the general idea of your whole task 1. Always write overview with the starting word overall. Well, there are a few things to remember about the overview. Don't provide the complete details, just give the general information. Write 2 to 4 key features and form a separate paragraph after the introduction. Never mention details like percentages or the data from the chart. Always remember, if it's a trend over time, you should mention the general features like, for example, road, water, and pipelines showed an upward trend, whereas the rail showed a fluctuating trend. I will discuss this example as we move ahead. And if there is no trend over time, then mention the highs and lows or the biggest to the smallest figures. So in the graph you can clearly see goods being transported in the Britain from the year 1974 to the year 2002 in the horizontal lane, whereas in the vertical lane you can see about the million tons of goods being transported from 0, 20, 40 to 120. So you can see there's an upward trend as for the road, boats and the pipes. Whereas as for the rail route, it is showing a fluctuating trend. So overview can be the goods carried out via road, boats and through pipes all displayed an upward trend over the entire period. The only exception to this was the rail route, which displayed a fluctuation throughout the period. So that's all for today. We will be discussing more about the examples of the overview, about the paragraph 1 and 2, and other examples for how you can carry on with your task 1 and achieve a band score of 8. So stay tuned for the other video and please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.